right, welcome to the Naturally Aspirated podcast for this latest episode. My name is Dave, your host from Cars of Sherwood Park and Cost Media. And today I'm alone actually for the first time, won't be joined by anybody else. And we will be asking a question that's been going around the car community a lot lately. If you're like me and you follow Donut Media, Auto Magazine, stuff like that, you have seen it everywhere. Is the new Z06 the new GT3? It's an interesting question because, I've never really thought of the Corvette. Obviously, it is kind of a grand tour, a car that you get a lot of bang for your buck too, right? So we're going to take a look into it, take a little bit of a dive in, and see what we know so far. There isn't a ton out there right now about the Z06, or Z06, as the Americans would say, so it's probably actually right to call it that, but whatever, I'm not doing it. And yeah, let's go head to head. So I could not find the MSRP for the Z06 yet, as it is kind of not really completely a released car, but the MSRP for the GT3 is $180,000 Canadian, starting out for both the manual and the PDK. We can estimate just by kind of looking at previous Z06s and the advancements this car has that it'll be based, I would guess, over $100,000 Canadian, probably over $100,000 American, to be honest, too. Obviously, the upgrades in looks have come from both cars this year. The GT3, classic GT3 look, it's got that big wing, and it's a stunning, in my view. If you follow us on Instagram, you know that I absolutely love Porsches. I'm a huge Porsche fan, so I'm gonna try my hardest to be non-partisan here. But Porsche's the 911 is a good looking car, and in that GT3 spec, I don't think it gets better than that. Maybe a simple Turbo S or something like that, or a GTS even. But it's a good looking car. Now the Z06, the pictures we have seen of this 2022, 2023, whatever it is, car, it's a much more aggressive take on the current C8 Corvette Stingray. There's increased carbon, sharper lines, and a bigger kind of air opening on the front end to help out with cooling, of course. And the one, you'd have to get the one with the wing if you're getting a Z06. I don't see why you would get one without a wing. That just seems, blows me away why somebody would do that. It's much more less aggressive. It's just, you want that aggressive look that I think looks great, honestly. It looks good. It's a good looking car for sure. It's a step up on the regular Corvette. From the rear, it looks a little too similar to the Corvette for my liking, just to the base model or any other model there. But from the front, I love the increased aggression. There's more defined lines within the hood through the front of the car. Like I said, the carbon, the splitter looks huge. It comes up with vortex generators, and the air inlets on the side of the car are massive, which just screams aggressive. It looks wide. It looks like it has a presence. But yeah, my one complaint would be the rear for the Z06. Now, moving on. Let's move right on into engines. That's what we're here for. Everybody loves engines. We're here to talk about engines. That's what this podcast is. It's basically horsepower, torque, 0 to 60 top speed, and what the engine is. So the GT3 has a 4.0 liter naturally aspirated boxer V6, and the Z06 has an amazing sounding 5.5 liter flat plane crank V8. So if you have not heard this car, go to YouTube once you're done listening, of course, and listen to that car. It is spectacular. It sounds good. It's the best sounding Corvette. It's got that high squeal reminding me of a Ferrari V8 or something in that sort of realm, a European V8 of some sort. And that's kind of what they were going for. We've heard lots of people say that. Lots of journalists and people even within Chevy saying they wanted to have a European style sound to help them compete with the European cars. Now, I'm assuming due to North American emission standards, this may be something that the European cars might not quite have and might be a little bit duller sounding, as that seems to be generally something we see. Like with the Ford GT, in American Ford GT sounds 300 times better than a European one. So I'm assuming that, unfortunately for our European friends across the pond, they will not quite have the same sounding exhaust as the ones we'd have here in Canada or in Mexico and the United States, perhaps. But overall, it's still, I like the high pitched squeal. I think they'd be able to keep that even in Europe. And head to head on the sound, I would give the Z06 the W. Not that the GT3 is a terrible sounding car, but I like that high pitched V8 squeal, and I don't think anyone is going to argue with that. Engine-wise, obviously, we haven't seen the 5.5 liter from the Z06 yet in action, but it's going to be hard to beat the GT3. The GT3 has such a dominant engine. You know, you hear almost no complaints about it. It's everybody who has driven a GT3 or has been lucky enough to drive a GT3, I haven't, just for reference, explains that it's such an awesome, the engine is awesome. You know, you have just the right amount of power to be usable on the road, and you can throw it on a track and just thrash it around as well. So talking about power, the Z06 actually blows it out of the water. The GT3 has 502 horsepower, where the Z06 has 670. As we know, Porsche is not a big horsepower fanatic. Pardon me. Wow, struggling today. First episode back in a long time, and it's showing. Sorry about that. But yeah, as we know, Porsche just not a huge horsepower fanatic. They stay with lower horsepowers, but it's all about that delivery, that response that people love. You're able to access every piece of horsepower. 607 horsepower, 502 horsepower. Let's be honest. They are both unusable on the road. You're never, ever, ever, ever going to use more than probably 200 horsepower on the road. Let's be honest. Unless you're like gunning a gap on the QE2, I don't know when else you would use it, right? So, but I don't know where I'm going with this. Obviously, you know, the Z06 is going to have that extra power, that extra push, that extra launch, which is going to make it a track beast. You know, they say it's a race car for the road on Chevy's website, which with 670 horsepower, that is a race car for the road, absolutely. Like I mentioned, it's got that increased carbon, that rear wing. It really is a race car for the road, and it's going to be an exciting car, and I look forward to seeing them once they start coming out to customers. And torque-wise, we have 346 foot-pound for the GT3 and a whopping 460 foot-pound for the Z06. So overall, it's still got that American brute. It's got force, it's got power. It's going to be an exciting car, absolutely. And yeah, I mean, it's going to be something that I think people are going to take time to get used to, that it's a Corvette with this amount of power and presence, because previously, you know, there's times where the Corvette gets caught up as, you know, it's just a Corvette. It's just a Corvette. There's lots, especially people who aren't completely involved in the car community may think that it's just a Corvette, where this is not just a Corvette. This is the Z06. It is outstanding. It is a beast, but it can be overlooked at that time. I also think that's why it's imperative you get all the carbon, the rear wing. You have to get all of it. Whereas a GT3, there's enough standing out from a normal 911 that you know that it is something special, even if you aren't a car person. That rear wing, it just brings an extra presence to that car, and it puts it on another level. 0 to 100. Now this is interesting. The GT3 only 3.4 seconds. Now that's what Porsche Canada's website says, and that's surprisingly low. I thought it would be a lot better than that. But I don't know. I guess that's it. That's the number that Porsche Canada has provided. So it's going to be the most accurate number out there. And 3.4 seconds is what they have. Whereas the Z06 is believed to go 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in just 2.6 seconds. That is fast. You know, this Z06 is a supercar. That's it. It's a supercar. It really is. And it's a, like I said previously, it's a track car for the road. It's a supercar. It's a nice car, and if it's only just over $100,000, it's priced beautifully. Like an amazing price. Competitors of this price of this price range do not have the same performance figures. And I think this is a good opportunity for Corvette to get, or in Chevrolet, to get their feet in the water. And then the ZR1 is just going to blow our minds. Like, if this is the Z06, what is the ZR1's going to have? Like 750, 800 horsepower and just be absolutely insane. So I'm looking forward to that. Of course, we're a couple years out of that, from that, for sure. At least a couple. And it's going to be crazy. 2.6 seconds. The ZR1 is going to be 2 seconds. The Z06 looking like an absolute beast. And I'm excited to see it. Transmission-wise, the GT3 has the infamous, amazing, seamless PDK, as well as also, like, the Porsche manual is also known for being an unbelievable gearbox. So, tough to compete with that there, but the Z06 does have an 8-speed dual-clutch gearbox, so should be fast, seamless transition, but the Porsche gearboxes are just known to be some spectacular pieces of machinery. Top speed. We don't know the top speed for the Z06, but I would assume it is pretty fast. My guess is around 300 kilometers an hour with speeds like that. Probably closer to 320. Yeah, everybody seems to be about 320 now, so I would assume that that's its top speed as well. For the GT3, you have the 318 kilometers an hour top speed for the PDK car and 320 kilometers an hour for the manual car. Now, is it the new GT3? I think we're going to have to look at the ride, the luxury once it comes out. You know, the GT3 offers an awesome interior, comfort on and off the track. You can use it on the road. Now, my concern about the Z06, obviously I haven't seen it yet in person or haven't been on the interior, driven it or anything like that, but there is a possibility that this car will be too harsh on the road, and that's no fun for nobody. When you're, especially where I live, where Carter Sherwood Park is based out of, it's Sherwood Park in Edmonton, Alberta, you know that there is potholes on every single road because it's minus 40 in the winter. That's just great for asphalt. And you're gonna hit some potholes eventually. You hope you don't hit one that's like a foot deep, because I have seen potholes that are foot deep. Yes, this is not a lie, and they will cripple your car, especially if you have a $100,000 plus car. That would suck, so don't do that. But, like, is it too powerful for our roads now too, I'm thinking? Especially in Sherwood Park, you're going to hit every single red light you go up to because for some reason, somebody thinks that's a great idea and that's what happens. So, is it the new GT3? I think we still have to wait, and I think that magazines have been saying such a thing is very premature. Very premature. Like, we haven't seen the car in flesh. Obviously, the numbers are fantastic. You're getting great money for your, great value for your money, but the drive is the all-important piece. If it drives like a rock, like you're just rolling a rock down the road, it is not the new GT3. If it's smooth, calm, and aggressive at the same time, then yeah, it could be the new North American GT3. Overall, I look forward to seeing the Z06. I think it's going to be a pretty awesome car. I'm quite optimistic about it. It'd be awesome to drive one day. Probably 0% chance, but you never know. Keep on dreaming. If someone from Chevy is listening to this podcast today, check out our website and you can find our email and all that stuff. And I'd love to do a partnership in a Z06. That'd be awesome. Also, Porsche. You know I love you. That'd be awesome too. All right, guys, this is just a short little episode just to get back on the podcast realm, and I hope you enjoyed it. Something a little bit different, but I will put it out as a regular podcast episode so everybody hears it. And let me know what you think. Do you think the Z06 can be the new GT3, or are all these car magazines just talking swamp water and don't know, or just trying to get views, you know? Or is Chevy paying for these? Yeah, these comments. Who knows? But overall, like power figure wise, it's on paper, it should be a quotation better car, end quotation, um, than the GT3 and for less money. So that is where I think they're saying it, but obviously we have no idea how it's going to drive. There's nothing that drives like a GT3, so it's going to be very difficult for the Z06 to replicate that or surpass that. But let's be optimistic, and yeah. Thank you guys for listening. Check us out on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, wherever you want. If you are listening to the podcast on a podcast site, leave us a review, give us a thumbs up, whatever you could do on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe and check out our new shorts because apparently people love them. They're getting thousands of views. And yeah, thank you very much. My name is Dave, and I'll see you next time.